Okay, so this is the last official lesson of this unit. So pretty much anything we do after this point is going to be like reviewing and kind of putting it all together and tying it up before we take our test, which should be early next week. I guess we could do it Friday even this week, but I don't know. I don't really like the idea of that. I'm not a big fan of Monday tests either, so we'll just kind of see how it works out. What we're looking at here is we're going to take two binomials. So if you've forgotten, because we haven't messed with binomials in a while, a binomial is an expression such like 2x plus 5. We're going to multiply that binomial and another binomial together. Now, that might look pretty straightforward, but people tend to make a common mistake here, and that they only multiply the terms that kind of go together. They multiply the like terms. When you multiply binomials, you have actually 4 multiplications that you're going to do. So kind of keep that in mind. Again, grab some scratch paper. Don't try and do these in your head. Please get a sheet of paper, scratch them out, and then give me your answer. All right, so we need to kind of pull in a couple of things to be able to pull this off. First of all, the distributive property, it says, whatever you've got inside your parentheses, you multiply by whatever's outside your parentheses. That's pretty straightforward. We've been doing that since August. So that's how we would get 10x plus 15 on this guy. Okay. And then similarly, excuse me, similarly here, when I multiply a negative 12x and then a positive 21 here because of the negative times a negative. Now, the exponents. Real quick, we need to review the exponents, not the power to the power stuff that we've been doing, but just multiplying and how that affects exponents. When I multiply these two terms here, I'm going to get 6 because of the 2 times 3, but then the x times x is going to give me an x to the second power. Same thing here, 4 times 2 is 8, and then when I multiply the x's, that's going to give me x to the 5th power. Okay, keep that in mind. The distributive property at this point should be just second nature. Do it in your sleep. This guy, keep this one in mind, the exponent rule. So the way this works when you distribute, okay, you're multiplying a binomial times a binomial. I'm gonna show you kind of the long way, and then how I actually do it. Simply because I want you guys to see. I am going to take each term in here, and I'm going to set up a distributive property problem with this binomial here. So I'm going to take 2x times x plus 5, but then I also have to take this plus 3 times the x plus 5. So each of these terms is going to distribute into the x plus 5. So that's going to give me a 2x squared, a 10x, a 3x, and a 15. If I did that too fast, I apologize. I'm taking each term here and rainbowing it in. 2x times x, 2x times 5. 3 times x, 3 times 5. Realistically, this is exactly what you're going to have to do. You're going to have a term with an x out front here that you're distributing it in, and then a term without an x out here that you're distributing in. Okay? When you do that, if you did it the way that I just did it right there, you're going to have 2 terms in the middle here that you should be able to combine together. So when I add that 10x and that 3x together, I get a 13x in the middle instead of those 2 different x terms. Most of these, you will wind up with a quadratic trinomial at the end for your answer. Not all of them, but most of them. Okay, keep in mind that you're doing that double distribution. Now, realistically, how I do these, I don't do it that way. I want you guys to see that's what's happening. I see that is what's happening. I'm going to just kind of connect the dots here. 2x times x, then I'm going to take 2x times 5. I'm going to take 3 times x. Ultimately, this is giving me the same kind of breakdown, but you just don't have to write it out that second time. You still have to combine the x terms in the middle. It's ultimately going to get you to the same thing. Okay, so just a couple of these. I want to highlight some things, show you some things that happen. So when I multiply these, 4x times 5x, that's 20x squared. 4 times negative 7, that's negative 28x. 3 times 5 is 15x. And then 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. The 2 in the middle, I can combine. So negative 28x plus 15 is negative 13x. And then the negative 21 at the end and the 20x squared at the beginning just kind of drop down. All right, this last one, this is kind of it's not the last one, but this next one, it's kind of a special case, and you'll see why after we start multiplying here. X times x times negative 7. 7x. 7 times x is 7x. Now, if you notice, you might already see what's going to happen here. These two terms in the middle, when you add them together, you get a 0 term. You don't need to put a 0 term in your answer, so you wind up with a binomial. This is actually called a difference of two squares. A difference because you're subtracting, and x squared is a perfect square, and 49 is a perfect square. That'll come back up in our next unit, unit 7. But just if you get a 0 term, you don't need to put it in your answer. So my answer is a quadratic binomial. Throw that vocab out there again. Okay, so I threw these in here simply because I think you guys need to know what you're doing with these. They're not going to happen much, but when they do, people always screw these up. What most people do, this is wrong. Don't do this. What most people do is they will square the 3x. So give me 9x squared. And they will square the 5 and tell me it's 25. That's wrong. That's not how these work. You have to go back to what we did on Monday and Tuesday. What does this exponent mean when you have a set of parentheses? It means you are literally taking 3x minus 5 and multiplying that by itself. Okay? These are just, they're the same steps as what we just did. Okay, you can't shortcut these. So I'm going to multiply 3x and 3x. Excuse me. 9x squared. 3x and negative 5 is negative 15. This pen is messing up and it's making me angry. Minus 15 again. X. When I multiply the negative 5 and the 3. And then lastly, a positive 25 because I'm taking a negative times a negative. The 2 in the middle. Negative 15, negative 15. Those do not cancel. They add together. So 9x squared minus 30x plus 25. Excuse me. Same thing here. 4x plus 3 squared. So I'm going to take 4x times 4x plus 3. Right? Write it out twice. Again, use scratch paper, guys. You can't do these in your head. 16x squared, 12x, 12x, and 9. When you square a binomial like this, you'll see a lot of repetition in these, right? The 12s, because you're multiplying the same things together. Also, if you haven't noticed, there's a couple of squared numbers in here, right? 16 and 9, 9 and 25. It just happens because you're multiplying the same things together. Anyway, multiplying binomials, it's not hard. Don't shortcut it when you're doing squareds.